Welcome back to the Small Business Show. I'm your host, Lori Brooks. Thanks so much for joining me. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. It truly does help the show. This week, I have the absolute pleasure of chatting with Valerie Hayes, COO EOS integrator, who's on a mission to help overburdened small business owners, entrepreneurs, and CEOs establish their businesses as industry leaders without working 24/7, 365 days a year. Valerie, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Lori. It's really just a thrill to be here. I'm so excited.
I am super excited to have you and I'm excited to kind of dive into your entrepreneurial journey and hear all about your practice today. But before we do, I want to rewind the clock. I want to go back to the days when an aunt or an uncle, or even a mentor in school would have asked you what it is you want to be when you grow up. Valerie, what was your answer to that question back then?
You know, I hate to confess, but when I was in elementary school, junior high, and even high school, I was having so much fun participating in all the school activities. I wasn't focused on what happened after high school. And of course, yeah, right. I mean, I was in marching band, I was in drama club, I was in debate. I was always going and doing and having a great time. And I was one of those people who was interested in a lot of different things. So nothing really stood out. It never occurred to me, oh, this is what I want to do. I knew I was going to go to college after I graduated. So it wasn't until college that I started thinking about what do I want to do for a career? What am I interested in? And I decided to go into human resources because most people think that human resources is just working with people and maybe signing people up for benefits and payroll. And really what it is it's solving business problems with the people available or the team available. But no, in my younger years, I confess, I was just having a good time.
You were living in the now.
Right, exactly.
And that's what a lot of people struggle to do. So that's not something to apologize for at all. You know, you got to enjoy the moment. You have to enjoy the journey. So I appreciate that you shared, there wasn't a real thought process as to what was coming next. It was more, I'm enjoying what I have the opportunity to enjoy today. And maybe if all of us did that, there would be less anxiety and frustration on the planet in the first place, Valerie. So really, living in the now is a beautiful thing. And I'm glad you enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, I had a great time. And of course, now that I'm older, I realize that many entrepreneurs like a variety of things. There's a lot of things that they're interested in. It's not just necessarily one thing. It can be, but it's not necessarily the case. And so, looking back on it now, I realized that I had a lot of the personality traits of an entrepreneur, but I was just having too much fun to think about it then.
You were already ready for the pivot long before you even knew it was coming in your journey. So please share, what was the first moment for you that entrepreneurship became a thought process, that working for yourself and owning your own practice might be something of interest?
I think it's something that probably a lot of people experience. I was fortunate enough to have a great career in human resources and worked for 3 different Fortune 500 companies and very, very successful. But even if you're successful in a career path in a large corporation, you realize at some point that you're not really in control of your destiny there, that it's other people who are in control. And I really felt like I could expand beyond human resources and do other business related things. But, you're on your little path and, the accounting path, the engineering path. And I really wanted to try my hand at different things. And I probably started thinking about it 10 years before I actually made the jump. And I finally made the decision when I realized my kids were teenagers and they weren't going to be at home for that much longer. And I really, corporate America can be a big time commitment, right? And you're not in control of your time either. And I wanted to be able to go to, the high school basketball games and my daughter's dance competitions and not have to squeeze it in here and there. And so that's when I made the decision to branch out and start my own consulting practice. And honestly, although I missed some of the people that I worked with, I really didn't miss the corporate environment.
Definitely. First of all, go mom. So excited for you in terms of that decision. Because when they get to that age and you're saying, okay, they're in high school, they're kind of beyond the day-to-day necessities. What do we do next? And there are so many women across the globe who get to this point and we're not sure what we want to do next. And unfortunately, there's so many women who entrepreneurship doesn't become a thought process and it's not something that's introduced as a concept or an idea that could be a feasible opportunity. And hopefully we're changing that with this show. Hopefully we're making that a reality that, moms like yourself, you can still have kids at home. It doesn't mean you can't, but you can go ahead and recognize that I want to try my hand at something else. So Valerie, what do you feel like were some of the steps that you took when you did make that decision?
The first steps I took was to get some clients, right?
Yes.
I'd like to say that I put the infrastructure in place first and I had a website and, business cards and the whole thing. But I confess, I just started with clients out of the gate. I was fortunate enough to get a couple of referrals from friends, and then it just became word of mouth, right? And at first I was just focusing on, local service to clients and then, throughout Texas, because I'm located in Houston, Texas. And before I knew it, I was working with clients nationally. And I think everybody experiences the first steps in their entrepreneurial venture differently. But what I've learned is that no matter how you start, right? In order to keep going and grow and be viable and not be one of those, 70% statistic that, doesn't make it past the fifth year, right? Which, my goal is to help everyone make it past the fifth year. But I think at some point we have to put infrastructure in place.
Yeah.
And by infrastructure, I don't necessarily mean processes and procedures and a SOP manual, right? I mean, how do we approach clients? Do we understand who our client avatar is? What's the client experience? How are we hiring people? What are we looking for when we hire people? Are we paying attention to treating our team well? I really believe and encourage this with the clients that I work with. We always want to be an employer of choice because businesses run on people. And if you don't have great people and if they don't feel great about what they're doing, it's very, very hard to succeed. So I think that for a lot of the entrepreneurs who start, much like I did, with an idea and some clients, I think it's really, really important. And I was lucky enough in that first year to realize that I needed to build infrastructure. You cannot grow without infrastructure. You'll go to a certain point and then you'll either plateau and not be able to go through that, or you'll collapse and drop back. So you need to build infrastructure. And I think that's really confusing to people because they think that means processes and procedures, and it does, but that's not, right? It's a much bigger picture.
No, definitely. There's soft skills that are needed in the practice as well. And it's not necessarily for ops and procedures for your products and services, but it's really kind of ops and procedures for the soft skills in the practice, the things that are going to make your clients and customers actually come back, the things that are going to allow you to grow the team that is going to support the journey. I like how you pointed out that there's only so far that we can get to by ourselves. At some point, we have to stop and do what I call the 4D strategy. We have to delete, delegate, dominate, or delay things. We have to make sure that our time is something we keep as sacred, block out the time for what we know we personally have to be working on, and then fill in the rest of that time with other people who are far more capable in the practice than we are, or in those areas than we might be in order to grow, because there's only so many hours in a day. Truly, there's only so many hours in a day. You can delegate as much as you want to technology to help you out. But at some point, you're going to still need a team member to help you out with the things that you delegated to the technology in the first place. So no, I agree with you. You can't continue on your own forever. You have to look at what those ceilings and pivot points are and really begin to address them. So thank you. Tell us all about your practice and what you feel helped you truly make the decisions to start the practice that you're in today.
Well, of course, we all have our own little COVID stories, right? And I'm not any different. I have a little COVID story. So I started my first consulting practice in 2002, and everything was going great, and life was good, and it was wonderful and booming. And then COVID hit, and my particular niche completely imploded. No one was hiring consultants. And I had lived through a similar implosion in that niche in 2008. And I knew enough to know that it takes about 3 to 5 years for that niche to respond and sort of bounce back. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to take some time to, take some courses, do some group coaching programs, and continue to work on my business skills. And as I was attending these programs, I was noticing that there were people in the programs who, shouldn't have been in the programs to begin with, right? But were very confused and frustrated because they were trying to implement what was being covered or what was being recommended, and they couldn't. And the coach or the instructor wasn't picking up on the fact. I mean, they could observe that they were frustrated and weren't doing the stuff that we were covering, but they couldn't figure out that the problem was because they had never laid the infrastructure. They didn't know how to implement things. They didn't know how to solve problems. They just didn't have the business experience and skills they needed to actually implement what they had paid for and paid, good money. And they were such good people. And at a certain point, I just thought to myself, okay, I'm just over this. I'm tired of watching these people struggle. And at the end of the course, that although they had been to every class and, spoke up in every in every, side session, but they weren't going to be able to do anything with it. And it was going to be wasted money for them. And so I thought, okay, I'm just sort of over this. I'm tired of watching these train wrecks and seeing the frustration and the disappointment on their face when they're not able to do it. And so I decided that I would start a fractional COO business, which is just fancy for part-time COO. And I would help small businesses that were not large enough to need a full-time COO with a full-time salary, but could benefit from the years of experience of how to run a business well. Because most people focus on sales and marketing. I mean, every ad on Facebook, on YouTube, how to, make 6 figures in 90 days or less. That really works, right? And those things are great. Sales and marketing is, of course, important. But if you just focus on sales and marketing, you're ignoring about 90% of your business, right? And so I really feel very strongly that how well you run your business is what creates your business. And so my mission is to help people understand early on that you need to have all of your business running well, not just sales and marketing. And there aren't really a lot of coaching programs for how well you run your business. There just aren't, right? And so I've been working with clients ever since that moment, and really enjoy working with people and helping them grow their business. Growing a business is fun. It's challenging, but it's fun too. And I really enjoy what I do.
Excellent. I absolutely love that. You are truly implementing yourself into other small businesses and shining a light on areas of other practices that people don't often even recognize exist, which is why the light needed to shine, because that piece was just kind of in the dark. And without someone to shine a light on that piece of their business, it probably would not have been able to thrive in the manner that you're now helping them to do. You're really taking a holistic look at the practice and really looking at sales and marketing, but let's look at the other pieces of your practice that are really going to help drive business in the long run. So excellent. Absolutely love that. So if you had the chance, Valerie, to go back, say 10 or 15 years and tell yourself just one thing that you feel like would have helped you throughout this journey of entrepreneurship, what do you feel like that would have been?
I would tell myself to hire a team sooner. I think it's so tempting, so very, very tempting, especially when you're just starting out and you're very cognizant of profit margin and income and revenue, and you're wanting to be very careful. I think that oftentimes people wait too long to bring someone in. Now, that could be for financial reasons. They're afraid about spending the money. They don't know how to hire someone, maybe, or sometimes they're worried about giving up control of some aspect of the business. I found that hiring people and getting them trained and getting things moving really enabled my first business to really grow. So when I started my second business, I've actually hired everyone before I needed them.
Nice.
Right. And that's enabled me to grow much, much faster. And people are like, oh my God, how come you've made all these inroads in fractional COO work in such a short period of time? And I think it's because I built the infrastructure before I needed it. And so I had a lot of time to train people, a lot of time to bring people up to speed so that we make sure we're providing excellence in customer service, because working with a fractional COO is a relationship built on trust. Because you're really helping someone with their baby, their business. And so for other business owners that haven't hired a team yet, I would really encourage you to hire your team before you need them.
Yes, that is excellent advice. And I should have taken that 10 years ago myself, Valerie. is excellent advice. So thank you for sharing that. The show is really designed to help entrepreneurs come up with an idea for a new business in an industry that they may not have been thinking of. So you are a business consultant, but as a fractional COO, you are integrated into other small businesses in a manner that consultants are not. So I'd love to know, if you had the magic wand and had the ability to change something as a fractional COO across the board with your practice, what do you feel like that would be?
I would change the perception about, I guess it's two things. I would change the perception about what kind of consultant people should be hiring. People oftentimes hire a consultant to do work for them. And sometimes there's a real need for that, right? But to grow your business, you and your team need to develop skills and grow your skill base, right? And so the way I work as a fractional COO is it's not a done for you service, right? Where they just do it for you and your team don't learn anything. And it's not a DIY where I tell you what to do. A lot of business coaches who are wonderful, and I've had many wonderful business coaches, but a lot of coaches will tell you what to do, but they don't necessarily show you how to do it or sort of hold your hand and walk you through it, right? So I wish more consultants would be done with you, which is what I do. I do it with you and your team. I help raise the standard of excellence, of performance. I help streamline things so that things get done faster. And so what I'd like to change the perception of business coaches, consultants, or fractional COOs is, yes, it's an expense, right? But what you're really doing is you're buying speed. Because the person that you're working with, for example, myself, has the years of experience where they've observed what's worked for them in their own business, as well as worked with other clients. And there are commonalities across different types of business. We all like to think our business is unique, but there are commonalities about the common mistakes that business owners make and how to fix them. And if a business owner tries to do it on their own, it's a DIY kind of situation where they're maybe, taking some courses and then trying some hit and miss solutions to see what works, right? When you hire a fractional COO, they can come in, spot the problem quickly, spot the root cause quickly. So they're not, like, I was working with one client and he thought he had a personnel problem, right? Well, the person he thought was the personnel problem was not. It was someone completely, in a different functional area that was the roadblock. So a fractional COO can come in, spot the problem, spot the root cause, and fix it faster, which enables you to transform your business faster. So if I could change anything, I'd like to change the perception that, a fractional CFO or a consultant or business coach is overhead and just an expense, and help people realize that what you're really doing is you're buying speed.
And not just speed in what it is that you're doing day to day, but speed in the ability for your practice to grow overall.
Right. Right. Because that's what you're really trying to do. And a good fractional goal when I'm working with clients is to help them grow to such a point where they now need a full-time COO. They've grown to that size, 2 million and above, where they need a full-time COO. And in a perfect world, in the time period that I've worked with them, I've been able to groom at least 2 candidates for that role. So that when I leave and go on to the next company, they've got someone to step into that position without any transition, right? And so a good fractional COO is constantly working to work themselves out of a job.
Definitely. It's the beauty and also the curse in and of itself. But at the same time, you're working to work yourself out of position to move on to bigger and better things, bigger and better clients, bigger and better scenarios. So,
well, and I enjoy the challenge of solving the problems and getting them up and running, right? So that's the fun part for me.
Excellent. I love how you explain where it is that the fractional COO is truly going to make the biggest difference for them is, really being able to come in and spot precisely where the problem is far faster than the owner themselves will ever be able to do so. And that's real. And that's not saying that a business owner doesn't understand what's going on in their business. No. But when you have someone like a COO come into your practice and help you spot that issue, it's because they have clarity on the entire scenario, whereas you as business owner are here and you have blinders on, and it's really difficult to see all of those areas, whereas an outside person coming in can kind of clarify those things and then set you up for success in the future. So yeah, thank you for clarifying that, Valerie. That's outstanding. I thank you so much for sharing your journey and your time with us this afternoon. Please share the best way for our viewers to find you.
Well, I'm primarily on LinkedIn, Valerie Hayes. I think if you look up fractional COO, I pop up too, but Valerie Hayes, Hayes. I'm also on Instagram, Valerie M. Hayes, M as in Mary, and on Facebook, Valerie Hayes or Valerie M. Hayes, depending on which way you're searching. And of course, people can visit my website, which is valeriehayes.com. I'm sure you're noticing the theme, Valerie Hayes. I just like to make it easy for everyone. Right?
Love it.
What's the business name again? Yeah, so valeriehayes.com. And I really do respond to every message I receive. So people don't need to worry about, she's not going to answer me back, because I really do.
I love that. And I love how you said you simplified. I'm myself in the process of doing exactly that, as our viewers know, with the title of the show. The original title was so long, it was just too much for anyone to put into a browser anyway. So we'll get there. We're getting there.
Exactly.
So Valerie Hayes across all social media, as well as valeriehayes.com. I will be sure to include the link on the show notes page. Valerie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Lori. It was a real fun interview, and I absolutely enjoyed it.